Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Asia Roadshow. We'll just wait for a few more people to join.
Everyone.
Good evening.
My fellow panelists, I can't really see how many people are with us. So can somebody tell me when we're about ready to go, when the numbers stop going up?
They're going up pretty swiftly at the moment.
Okay, that's good. We'll wait a little bit then. Welcome, everyone. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for everyone to keep coming in. Still going up, I think.
Yeah, still creeping up, 125 now.
Excellent. Pleased to see so many of you here
26.
with us. Although I'd rather be at home here rather than out in the cold. It's absolutely freezing down in Hampshire, so not a bad thing to be doing on a Thursday evening. I think we're ready to go, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. Let's go for it. It's
Okay.
gone up for a bit.
That's great, lovely. Well, again, thank you everyone so much for joining us in our Naturetrek Roadshow this evening, where we'll be talking all things Asia. So Asia is a continent, that is very close to Naturetrek. Those of you who are familiar with us will know that our foundings in the sort of mid-80s were actually in Himalayan trekking with David and Marianne Mills, who were sort of birding and trekking specialists at that time. We've greatly expanded since, but we're still so proud of the selection of wildlife holidays that we do have to offer in Asia. So very excited to speak to you about those this evening. Asia has struggled quite a lot in tourism over the last couple of years, unfortunately, due to COVID. They were quite badly hit, but we are absolutely delighted that the majority of the tours that we operate to Asia are now back up and running again, with the problems with the Indian permits, the Indian visas far behind us. And actually, we've sent so many people last year. Tom will be speaking to you a lot this evening about all the trips that we had to Borneo last year. So we're so pleased to be back up and running, and hopefully we can enthuse a few more of you this evening. So my name is Georgie. I am Naturetrek's tailor-made manager, and I'll be your host for this evening. And I'll be accompanied by my fellow panelists here. So we'll be kicking off the evening with Mugdha, who I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to. She is from India, so she is much warmer climate than we've got here. So Mugdha will be speaking to you first of all about the tigers of central India. After that, we'll be moving swiftly on to Rajan in Sri Lanka. So not quite in Sri Lanka at the moment. Very close.
I'm in chilly Southampton in Hampshire.
It does look very cozy there with you, Rajan. And then we'll have about a 10-minute break at around 8:15. So you can go and get another glass of wine or fill up your tea or whatever you'd like for about 10 minutes. And then my colleague George, who's another member of our tailor-made team, will be speaking to you about Vietnam, a country that he knows very well, and might not be actually in Vietnam at the moment there. That might be a bit sneaky. And then we've got Tom. Tom will be speaking to us about Borneo, a country that he knows very well, and all the exciting things that we got up to there last year. Please do use the chat and the Q&A function all the way through the talks. We will try and answer a few of those questions by typing them out to you as we go along, but we'll also have a Q&A section at the end of the evening. We'll have sort of 15 minutes or so to answer any of those burning questions you might have. So do just pop them on through as soon as you think of them, and then we'll get to them right at the end. So I think that's enough from me, and I will now just hand you over to Mugdha, who will be speaking all things India. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll be back soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Georgie. Let me share my screen with you. I hope everyone can see my screen here. Hello, good evening, everyone. Well, it's 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. in India right now, which is not exactly the evening. I might say perhaps a night or good morning to everyone. Anyway, my name is Mugdha. I am from India and I work with Travel in India, which is a partner company of Naturetrek to handle the ground logistics in India. So I also lead tours for Naturetrek sometimes, and it's been almost a year that I am associated with Naturetrek. Today, I am here to talk about one of the most charismatic wildcats in the world. I would say it's the tigers. And before we get to the tigers, let me just get through you one of the fact sheets about India. So India is unique in having immense natural beauty and rich and diverse biodiversity. It is a country where you can find anything and everything from smallest ant to biggest animal. It is the only country in the world where the tigers and lions both are found, and about 75% of world's tiger population is found only in India. Not about tigers, but also the snow leopard has the highest density in India. So in the map, which is here, you can see the solid part, which is called as Madhya Pradesh. There is a state in India called Madhya Pradesh, which directly translates into the central province of India. This is the Madhya Pradesh, which has the maximum forest cover as well as highest number of protected areas. It has got 3 biosphere reserves, 6 tiger reserves, 9 national parks, and about 25 wildlife sanctuaries, which makes this area very special for wildlife enthusiasts. Talking about wildlife enthusiasts, why does Naturetrek promote India's Central Park as a preferred wildlife destination? Mainly because first, it has got excellent wildlife sighting, and secondly, it has got improved network of roads and the connectivity with the international airport. So people can spend more time in jungles rather than going or transferring from one place to another place. The wildlife of India has got 4 famous animals. Along with tigers and leopards, we have slothbears and wild dogs, which are collectively known as famous forts of central Indian jungles. Since this presentation is about the tigers, let me tell you how the tiger sightings happen in India. So in summer, when the temperatures are anywhere between 42 to 48 degrees Celsius, maximum tiger sightings generally occur near the water bodies. So there are very few water bodies which have water during that temperature. And tiger being a hot-bodied animal, they tend to stay inside this water body, either drinking the water or just cooling themselves in a pool, or anywhere nearby in the bamboo thickets where they can just sleep in a comparatively cooler environment than any other place. So these are general summer sightings that we have. Then in winters, the grasses, the bushes are very thick, and that kind of becomes a hurdle to spot the animals. However, if we spot a tiger in winters, it is the most beautiful sighting that we can ever have, because the background, the habitat is so beautiful. Like you can see the bigger picture here, mother with 2 cubs. It was clicked on one of the recent tours of Naturetrek. It's called India's Wildlife Photography Tour, which was held in October 2022. So in this picture, you can see there's a foreground of beautiful flowers, and there's a backdrop of lush green bushes. So it all together makes a very beautiful picture. So I always say, in the winters, the pictures are much better than how we get in summers. However, the tigers are tigers. Anytime you see the tigers, it's going to be that exciting for everyone. And then there's something called head-on tigers. This is something that everybody wants to witness. It is when the tiger starts walking towards the gypsy, and you have to take your gypsy back. You have to reverse the gypsy. And this is really exciting because you make a room for tigers to walk towards you. And sometimes it's alone, it emerges out of the thicket. Sometimes it's already on the road. Sometimes it's there with the family, which is very exciting. And then we have these lazy tigers. Tigers are very lazy animals. They tend to sleep for about 16 to 17 hours a day. So generally in the afternoon safaris, when we are in the jungles, we get to see this sort of tiger sighting. So they are either on the road or somewhere inside the bamboo forest or near the water body. They are just laying down, yawning, grooming themselves. So that is a different sort of sightings that we have in Indian jungles. And lastly, it's sometimes you just see either a tail or one leg or just whiskers or just a glimpse of body going from one place to another through the thick bushes. Although many people do not consider it as a tiger sighting, but believe me, this is something very exciting and can create a good picture. Then we have other animals in central India. There's some endemism, which is endemism is basically the species is found in that particular area and nowhere else. So hard-ground Barasinga is only found in Kana and nowhere else in the world. There's a small population of them has been translocated to Satpura very recently. It is just to make sure that if any epidemic comes, we should have some population which can thrive. Otherwise, the entire population of hard-ground Barasinga would wipe out of the Indian map. And then we have Indian giant squirrel, which is not exactly endemic to Satpura, but if we consider the central Indian parks, the tiger reserves and national parks that we have in Madhya Pradesh, then Satpura is the only place where we can find this Indian giant squirrel. These are known as Nani and they are the mascots of Satpura Tiger Reserve. Then we have some of the common mammals which are found in that particular area. We have Northern Plains langur or Hanuman langurs. We have beautiful and elegant spotted deer, the biggest deer that we have in Asia, the sambar deer, and of course the jungle cats. Then we have something called as melanistic Indian leopard. Many people call it as a black panthers also. In Tadoba and Pench, which are two tiger reserves in Madhya Pradesh, we have 3 individuals in Tadoba and 2 individuals in Pench. Of course, the sightings are very rare. Hardly we get to see them, but yeah, their records are there. Then we have the smallest wild cat in the world, which is called as dusty spotted cat, found in the jungles of central India. Of course, they are very nocturnal and the sightings are very uncommon, but yeah, they are widely spread throughout India. Then we have Indian god, which is the heavyweight champions, the heaviest bovine that we have in India, and of course the golden giant. There are some beautiful and colorful birds in India. Naturetrek does focus on birds as well. We have red avadavet, we have circuit malkoha, crested hawk eagle, and Indian roller, which is really beautifully colored feathered bird. Then we have quite a lot of owl species in India. Among them is mottled wood owl. Then the Indian paradise flycatcher, which is the state bird of Madhya Pradesh. We have bar-headed geese, which fly over the Mount Everest, and these are the migratory birds. And of course, the king of good times, common kingfishers, are also found in India. So just to take you how the day looks like in central Indian forest, how the vacation is going to be in Indian jungles. So we wake up early in the morning, generally before the sunrise. We have a hot cup of tea and coffee. The jeeps are ready at the reception. We proceed for the morning safari with the packed breakfast, which we have inside the forest. We roam around in the jungle and come back to the lodge by 11:30, which is the exit time. When we leave at 11:30, it takes about half an hour to 15 minutes to reach the lodge. It's almost about noon when we reach the lodge. We relax for a while, then we have lunch and again proceed for afternoon safari by 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We roam around in the jungle till sunset. We come back to the lodge, get freshen up. After getting freshen up, we meet around the campfire. We do a checklist there. We talk to each other. We socialize, network with each other, and then we go for dinner and call off for the day. So it is generally the wildlife excursions are not very luxurious in terms of timings. It is, I would say, I always say that it is like a boarding school, but this is once you see the tiger, you feel that it worth for the life. Going and having this schedule all the time, it's really worth. Then Naturetrek has quite a few tours which are mainly focused on Central Indian jungles. Few of them are India's wildlife photography tour, which focuses mainly on Bandhavgarh with the extension of Chambal and Bharatpur. Then there's a Tiger Direct, which is Pench and Kanha with the extension of Tadoba and Satpura. Then we have Just Tigers, which focuses mainly on Kanha with the extension of either Chambal and Bharatpur or Bharatpur and Ranthambore. And then when it's unknown India, the tour focuses on Tadoba, Pench and Satpura. So let me just get you through one of the tours of Naturetrek called Tiger Marathon. How does the schedule look like? So from London, you fly to Doha on day 1, and you reach to Nagpur. You stay there overnight, and then from Nagpur to Pench, you drive by car. It's about 2.5 to 3 hours journey. You stay in Pench for second and third day. And then on 4th day, you drive from Pench to Kanha. It's about 5 to 6 hours journey through the rural India. It's a beautiful drive where you cross the Sagwan forest or teakwood forest and enter the Sal forest of Kanha. So it's a very beautiful transition of forest. And then you spend day 4, 5, and 6 in Kanha. On day 7th, you leave from Kanha and go to Bandhavgarh. It's about 6-hour drive again. You stay in Bandhavgarh for 3 nights and then move to Panna. In Panna, we spend almost 2 nights, and then on day 12, we leave to Khajuraho, which is a beautiful cultural place near Panna. It's about 1 to 1.5 hour drive. It has got very beautiful old sculptures and the temples in Khajuraho. We spend about a day there, and then from Khajuraho we take a flight and go to New Delhi. From New Delhi, people who opt for extension, they go to Ranthambore by train, and rest of them fly back to London. So in this map, you can see it's a mixture of the flight, the car journey through rural India. Again, you have the train experience. So Naturetrek has made this wholesome experience where in one tour you get to do quite a lot of things. You go to wildlife also, you do some cultural events also. So it's a full package that we offer. Then wildlife tours are not just about the wildlife, but also the lodges that we stay at. So there are few preferred lodges that we have, preferred hotels that we have. So in Nagpur, we offer Radisson Blue. It's a beautiful hotel. In Pench, we have Tuli Tiger Corridor, which is rustic jungle lodge. In Kanha, again, it's the lodge by Tuli chains. In Bandhavgarh, we use Bandhav Vilas. In Panna, we have Tindu Leaf Resort. And in Ranthambore, it's a Pugmark Resort. So all of them are really hand-picked lodges with good food, good quality of naturalist. Everything is hand-picked here. Then it's about the cultural India. Like I said, we do a day excursion in Khajuraho just to give the essence of cultural India. So we have a guided tour here where we see the architecture of Khajuraho, the history of the temples, how important they are in the Indian mythology and the culture. So it's a really good experience that we get in that one-day excursion. And then it's about the food, the flavors of India. India is known for its flavor, and we try to promote all the authentic cuisines that we have to our lodges and the places that we stay at. But we also do keep in mind the dietary restrictions of our clients and make sure that they are met. So it is not just about the wildlife, it's about the journey. In the Indian forest or Indian journeys, you won't see much of traffic while going from one tiger reserve to second tiger reserve in central India. But you might get traffic of cows and buffaloes, which is very original and very authentic to India. And that is the fun of Indian journey. And I would say everyone must experience that sort of journey while in India. So that is it. That is a little bit about the tiger capital of India called Madhya Pradesh. And we are looking forward to meeting you in person while you are in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Mugdha, for your lovely presentation. I will take over from here. So let me share my screen. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rajan Jolly. I am the operations manager at Naturetrek. I joined Naturetrek in 2001, almost 22 years ago, when I moved from India to UK. At Naturetrek, I look after tours to Burma, to Bhutan, to Sri Lanka, and to India. Today, I'm talking from Chilworth in Southampton, and it's warm inside, but it's very chilly outside. So I will be taking to a warm tropical country, Sri Lanka, and to give you some perspective where Sri Lanka is, this is the map in front of you. It is a small, tiny island in Indian Ocean. It is southeast of India. It is around 4 times smaller than the size of UK. So it's a small island with a population of 21 million people. 71% of the population follow Buddhism. So in Sri Lanka, we see a lot of ancient Buddhist monasteries, ancient palaces, stupas, statues of Lord Buddha. With that culture, we also see the rich nature and the wildlife of Sri Lanka. So this is the tour I will be talking about today. The name suggests what exactly we are going to offer. So Sri Lanka Wildlife and History. We'll be covering all the major highlights of wildlife of the island, and we'll be also focusing on the culture, the rich culture of Sri Lanka on this tour. So we start, as you can see, we go up north and then we come down and we cover some wildlife parks and then we go back to Colombo and fly. So we use Sri Lankan Airlines to fly to Colombo. All our trips to Sri Lanka, we use this airline because they offer direct flights. This is the only airline which flies direct to Sri Lanka. There are many other options available, but they are indirect. And we can also cater to anyone flying from regional airports. So there are options available. The flight to Colombo is around 10 hours. So we leave in the evening. The timings are very good. We leave in the evening at around 7-ish, and we arrive in Colombo next day in the afternoon. On arrival in Colombo, we quickly freshen up and start our drive to Anuradhapura up north, as you can see on this map. It's a 4 hours journey, but after a long flight, we want to make sure that the journey is comfortable. So we stop en route. We will start with some lovely birding stops en route. We will enjoy some snacks. We'll enjoy the local delicacies. We'll enjoy the coconut water, which you can see in this picture. And we try and arrive in Anuradhapura just before our dinner. Anuradhapura is the ancient capital of Sri Lanka. It is also a World Heritage Site, very, very important place for Buddhists. So a lot of tours coming from Japan and many other countries who visit Sri Lanka purely for few destinations like Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa. Here, our focus is going to be very much ruins, the culture of the city, the ancient city. You will see in this picture, there are some lovely carvings and lovely stupas. On the right of this slide, you will see a tree. It is a sacred fig tree. It is 2,200 years old tree. And the roots of this tree were brought from India, from Sarnath in India, where Lord Buddha got his enlightenment 25 centuries ago. So a very holy tree for Buddhists, for Sri Lankans. And when you are there, you will see locals chanting, praying, and it's a very lovely experience because you see the real, very much the real experience, the real Sri Lankan experience. On this tour, we have mix of accommodation ranging from small family-run accommodations to middle heritage standard categories, and some hotels with bit of luxury, like this one in Anuradhapura. From Anuradhapura, if somebody would like to see more of culture, we offer an excursion to Polonnaruwa. It is only an hour's drive from Anuradhapura, and it is something really special because most of the people who visit Polonnaruwa visit for stone temple, which you will see on this picture on the left, and the stone carvings of standing and reclining Buddha. This was built in 12th century, and the reclining Buddha is 14 meters long and carved from one stone. So all the carvings there are amazing and built in 12th century. The birding is also good there, so we do some birding around these monuments, and then we come back in the evening and stay overnight before we travel to our next destination. So we'll give culture a bit of a break, and we will focus more on wildlife. We'll be going and traveling to a lovely place called Sigiriya. So we'll be going there to see some endemic bird species of this place, starting from Sri Lankan grey hornbill. We'll also look for Sri Lankan wood shrike, Sri Lanka jungle fowl. And this is a place where we will do one night game drive as well. Such a special thing which we can do it in this lovely place. To look for nocturnal mammals, we'll be focusing mainly on fishing cat, red slender loris, gray slender loris. Look at these big eyes. Their eyesight is very, very good, but I'm afraid they don't like light. So when we are on our night game drive, we make sure that we don't do flash photography or take bright lights. They are only 6 to 10 inches tall. They are found in India and Sri Lanka, and they have 2 breeding seasons in a year and have 1 or 2 offsprings. Such a delight when you see them on your night game drive. We also look for common palm civet, giant flying squirrel, and jungle cat. So if you like the sound of the nocturnal mammals, the night game drives, so then we offer an exclusive trip called Sri Lanka by Night. On that trip, we focus on Sigiriya, nocturnal mammals, but we also focus on other sites to see more of night wildlife. And the trip which we do is in March every year. And this March, we have a few places still available. Being in Sigiriya, we can't miss this lovely monument, built 1,500 years ago. The name is from the shape of this rock. The name is Lion Rock Fortress. And because of the shape, you will see that when you enter, you see it looks like a lion. You're entering the lion fortress. Here, the views are amazing from the top, but to go to the top, we have to accept a bit of a challenge and climb around 1,200 steps up to the top. When we go and climb these stairs, we look for different things, starting from lovely fresco paintings, king thrones, the mirror hall, the bath, the swimming pool, and above all, the views. The views from the top are just breathtaking. They are lovely. However, if somebody's not feeling adventurous enough, we have an option of just staying on the grounds of this lion fortress and do some birding. So we have a guide who stays down, and he takes other members who are not very keen on going on the top, and they do birding. So a lovely place to visit. We stay at Hotel Sigria, mainly because obviously the comfort, the rooms are very comfortable, nice food, but also because of the lovely views of the fortress, the rock fortress. Moving on, we will be traveling on to Kandy, but before we go to Kandy, en route, we stop in these caves. These caves are prehistoric caves, but the fresco paintings, the reclining, the standing Buddhas, which you see here, they were done around 150 years ago. But lovely stop. We stopped there for nearly an hour or two, but it's a nice place just to see some local culture, meet local people, and then carry on to Kandy. Kandy is the most sacred city of Sri Lanka, mainly because of the temple here, the Temple of Truth. Here, the tooth of Lord Buddha is kept. So you will see a lot of locals every day visiting this temple, offering flowers, offering other things, the prayers. So when we enter, we feel so calm, so peaceful in this lovely temple. In Kandy, we also go to the well-maintained botanical gardens. So in the afternoon, we visit these gardens to see the lovely orchids, the flowers, the lovely trees, some endemic to that region. And we also see that the love is in the air in this place. They're so well maintained. You feel so romantic when you are in these botanical gardens. And if somebody want to show their affection, show their love to their partner, they can do it here in this setting, like I did when I was in these lovely botanical gardens. In the evening, we see these lovely folk dances of Sri Lanka. Look at the dresses, the colorful dresses they have. Look at the musical instruments they play. So it is for around 2 hours, and we spend just enjoying their different forms of Sri Lankan folk dances. So moving on, really, obviously this Kandy is something really special. I'm sure everyone will love spending their 2 days in Kandy. On this tour, because it's a long tour, 17 days tour, we try and spend 2 nights at least one place. Here we will be visiting, the next we will be visiting Nuralia, which is a hill station and also known as Little England. But before we reach Nuralia, we'll stop in a tea gardens. We see how they pluck tea. Then later on, we go to a tea factory as well to see how the tea is processed, how they make the tea. And we'll also be lucky to have a cup of Sri Lankan tea before arriving in Nuralia in the hills. This is the place where you will need your warm clothes. The fleece will be good. Tropical country, the weather remains very similar throughout the year. It's only in the hills you will need some warm clothing. Rest is all trousers, shirts, comfortable clothing, and not woolens. Even if you are visiting in January, we have a few groups departing very soon. The advice is very much pack comfortable clothes. It's only for Nuralia. Take maybe a fleece, a warm jacket. That's it. It's a place where we see lovely tea gardens. It's a place which reminds us of the hills here because of the lovely Lake Gregory, the post office, the Victorian architecture, which is in Nuralia. From Nuralia, the next day, we do an excursion to a lovely place called Houghton Plains National Park. It is only 45 minutes journey from Nuralia to Houghton Plains, and we try and leave early in the morning to look at the special wildlife which this place has to offer us. The endemic species which we look for are the Sri Lanka whistling thrush. We look for yellow-eared bulbul. We also look for Sri Lanka white eye and the critically endangered purple-faced leaf monkey. They are very shy, very elusive, very difficult to see. But because of our two leaders, our guides, we have been lucky to see them on few of our Sri Lankan trips. A very special sight if you see them. So moving on, we go to Tisamaharama. So it's going to be a long drive, I'm afraid. It's the longest drive of the tour. It takes around nearly 7 hours. But again, to make it comfortable for our clients, we make sure that we stop en route. We do birding en route. We also stop in a lovely spice garden. So there's spices, Sri Lankan spices all around us. So they will show us how they grow Sri Lankan spices. We will taste some. We will have a lunch in that spice garden before carrying on our journey to Tisamaharama. So all our long drives, even if they're 4 or 5 hours, we make sure that we do enjoy en route wildlife or en route anything special which we can see. Even anyone, maybe a local life, a village, we try and visit. We will take photographs. We go and meet locals just to make sure that we have the real experience of the country. In Tisamaharama, which is very close to Yala National Park, we stop only for a night, mainly to have, because it's a long drive, so we want to make sure we stop, relax, and next day we go on to the national park. But in Tisamaharama, there's a lake where we do some birding. So we'll be doing some birding in the morning, and then we carry on our journey to the most famous national park of Sri Lanka, which is Yala National Park. It is famous because of the Sri Lankan leopard. And as it is so easy to see leopards in Yala National Park, it is, I'm afraid, very busy national park. So everyone knows about Yala National Park and the 50-odd leopards it holds. The area of Yala National Park is 400 square miles, and the leopards there are used to jeeps, used to humans in the park. So you will see them sitting on the trees, on the tracks, near the water holes. So the sightings, I'm not saying that they are everywhere. It is still difficult to find them, to see them, but the chances are very high that you will see them. But to avoid the crowds, we do visit Yala National Park, but very cleverly a few years ago, we thought it's getting too crowded. There's so many jeeps everywhere in Yala National Park. Let's do something different, which other companies are not doing. So we found a lovely place, which is a neighboring national park called Lungamvera National Park, which is just only 40 minutes away from Yala and offers very similar wildlife. So we have a park to ourselves. It is still a secret which Naturetrek has. So not many people visit this national park, but we see very similar wildlife. I was there a few years ago and saw sloth bear. There are around 1,000 sloth bears in Sri Lanka, and chances of seeing one at Lungamvera are very high. Of course, we see leopards, but we also see wild elephants, and it's a very scenic park as well. We look for marsh mugger crocodiles, and these are the jeeps which we use for our game drives. As you will see, they're very comfortable. Everyone get a window seat. And if we are lucky, peacock also accompanies on our game drives. So very comfortable way of doing the game drives. So when we're in Yala, we stay at Cinnamon Wild Lodge. It is a very comfortable lodge, as you can see in the picture. It is on the shores of Indian Ocean. It has a lovely swimming pool, and the grounds are lovely. The grounds where we spend afternoon to look for birds. And in the past, our groups have been lucky to see leopards as well, and wild elephants, not very far from the lodge, because it is only 5 minutes drive away from Yala National Park. This is one of the rooms of that lodge, offers air-conditioned ensuite facilities, very comfortable. So moving on, we travel on to Udawalawe National Park. As you can see, we are very much down south now. And this is the place which offers the best chances of seeing wild elephants in the world. There are around 700 wild elephants in an area of around 200 square miles. So the chances are very high. And we stay in a comfortable hotel there called Centurial Wild Resort. So if somebody really want to see Sri Lankan wild elephants, this is the place to go. And we see elephants not far, but very close by as well. There's also a lovely place called Udawalawe Transit Home, which is doing a wonderful job. They do open it for tourists as well. There's a platform where we sit. We are not allowed to go very close to the elephants, but we sit there and we see how they feed elephants. And all the elephants which are there are mainly from who needs help. They're injured, they need help, so they're brought here, they're fed. When they're well, they're released back in the wild. This is the last destination on this tour, which is the rainforest called Senaraja. It is a World Heritage Site. Sri Lanka has 34 endemic bird species, and out of 34, 25 are found here. 60% of the trees are endemic to this region. 50% of all endemic mammals, butterflies, reptiles are found here. Such a lovely place to visit. When we visit inside the reserve, we go on foot. So our birding is done on foot, and we look for different species, flock of birds, many other trees, and it is something really special. It is a place which we go on our Sri Lanka wild endemic tour. So we have a different tour in which we focus just on Sri Lankan endemics, and this is a place which we focus on. And most of our groups in the past have seen all 34 endemic species, plus many more migratory birds as well. In Senaraja, the star bird is blue magpie. The flight of this bird is not very good, so it is mainly seen around that region, around Senaraja. We will also look for Serendip's owl, recently discovered by Deepal, a tour leader, in 2001. We look for frogmouth, we look for the yellow-fronted barbet, and a changeable hawk eagle. So this is the end of the main tour. So what we do is we travel back to Colombo and fly and stay a night and then fly back on Sri Lankan Airlines direct to London, to UK, back home. But people who would like to spend more time in Sri Lanka, we offer extensions. One of the extensions is blue whales. So we go to Marissa and go on these boats on the shores, on the sea, and we go for around 10 nautical miles and look for blue whales. The season for blue whales is mainly starting from November and goes on till April. The best time is, supposedly best time is February and March, but our groups have seen blue whales even in November, December, January. We also look for other whales as well. We look for sperm whales. Our groups have been lucky to see killer whales as well. In Marissa, we always see a school of spinner dolphins. We stay in a lovely, comfortable place. And this is very close to the fisherman's village. So in the afternoon, our groups like to walk here, enjoy the fisherman life and see how they catch fish. On one of the boat trips are done only in the morning for around 4 hours. In the afternoon, one of the afternoons, we go and visit Gaul, which is around 1 hour drive from Marissa. And we see Dutch fort, the Gaul Dutch fort. We will try and visit the famous Sri Lankan cricket stadium. And that's where we end the extension. We offer one more extension because this tour is very busy. It's a fast-paced tour. So what we do is, rather than always traveling and seeing so much, we want to give our clients a bit of a break to relax. So this is a lovely extension where you can spend some time just relaxing near the beach, white sandy beach. You must be wondering what happened to all the cuisine. So let me tempt you with this picture. So we have lovely cuisine in Sri Lanka, and we'll be offering that on our tour. My favorite being coconut roti, but they're lovely food, starting from chicken coconut curry, which is amazing, the fresh seafood. But having said that, we can cater to all dietary requirements, be it vegan, gluten-free, or anything else. So lovely to speak to you. I hope I have tempted you to visit Sri Lanka soon. So thank you very much. Over to Georgie.
That's great. Thank you very much, Rajan. You've certainly tempted me there with that wonderful food right at the end. So thank you for that. And also thank you to Mugdha. I think it's gone 1 o'clock in the morning there now. So well done for staying up and helping us with all that. That's wonderful. So I think we're just going to take a 10-minute break now. So we'll be back at 8:25, where George will be introducing us to Vietnam. So I would just keep continuing to encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat function, as we really would love to hear from you and find out how you're finding the evening. So I will now just pop the screen on, and we'll be back at 8:25. Look forward to hearing from you then. Thanks. Okay. I think we're just struggling with the sound there, I'm afraid. So sorry about that. But yes, we have to be in silence for the next few minutes. So we'll see you back in a bit. Thanks. Right, hello again, everyone. I hope you are all nice and refreshed and settled in there. So I will now pass you over to my colleague George, again, who works with me in the TaylorMade team, and he will be speaking to you about Vietnam. So we'll then hand over to Tom and then the Q&A from there. So fire away, George. I'll leave it with you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Georgie. Well, as Georgie said, my name's George, and I am actually part of the TaylorMade team. So I work with Georgie in TaylorMade. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, but I joined Naturetrek in summer. And as much as TM is sort of my day-to-day business, I've been lucky enough to sort of travel all over the world looking for wildlife. So, you know, my focus has always been on primates and rare mammals in particular. But, you know, all wildlife is good to me. And I actually managed to spend 6 months back in 2019 touring Vietnam from north to south on my motorbike. So that maybe helps you understand a bit of my background in terms of where I'm coming from for this talk. So Vietnam itself, it's a country in Southeast Asia, bordering China to the north and Laos and Cambodia to the west. And there's a long coastline stretching from the Gulf of Tonkin in the north, down the South China Sea, right down to the Gulf of Thailand. Population-wise, it's a touch over 100 million people, and super ethnically diverse and really rich in history, which I'm sure many of you have probably heard of Vietnam for that reason, and it's probably deserving of its own presentation entirely, so I can't go into the culture too much. Yes, culture's fantastic, and the food as well. I know Georgie said she was tempted by the Sri Lankan food, but I would go as far as say that the food in Vietnam is pretty excellent. So, you know, if you're a food person, can't recommend it enough. Geographically speaking, Vietnam's got a wealth of habitats. So you've got coastal and inland wetlands, you've got montane forest, tropical lowland forest, and karst limestone and cave ecosystems as well. So it's really nice and varied. It's really defined by the central Annamite mountain range, which runs down the border north to south with Laos. And that's, you know, a complete hotbed of biodiversity, and really quite impenetrable in some places, and scientists are discovering new species all the time there. The whole country is affected by the tropical monsoon, so you've got a rainy season from May to October. And wildlife-wise, the avifauna in particular is very distinctive. So a very respectable 900 plus species of birds, and it's got the highest number of endemic bird species in all of mainland Southeast Asia, including sort of laughing thrushes, greenfinch, Germain's peacock pheasant, which is actually an Indo-Chinese speciality. And then there's all sorts of stuff like magpies, cuckoo shrikes, tree pies, racket-tailed tree pie, and all sorts like that. So, you know, there's a lot of birds to get your teeth into. And to complement that, we've also got some fantastic and quite mystical mammals, really, including some of the most endangered primates in the world, including the 3 duke species. So the black shank duke, the grey shank duke, and the red shank duke, which are some of the most gorgeous primates anywhere on Earth. And then an additional 8 species of langur, including delacaurs and Annamese silvered langur, which we should have a good chance for on this tour, and a whopping 6 species of gibbon as well, one of which we will hope to see towards the latter end of this tour. And in addition, we've got reptiles, amphibians, and butterflies, which are all very well represented. So all in all, Vietnam, from a wildlife perspective, is a super underrated destination, in my opinion. So the tour itself, this is a new 16-day holiday, visiting some of the very best regions in search of the country's sort of famed wildlife, birds and mammals. So on this tour itself, we could try and rack up over 350 species of bird if we're lucky. Specialities like bar-bellied pitter, Tonkin's partridge, Delat's white babbler, and our target mammals being the black shank duke and the buff-cheeked gibbon. And it's a sort of north to south tour. So we fly into Hanoi, and then we spend a bit of time in the north, and then we take a flight down to Dalat, and we do some of this southern section before heading home. And we'll be going over in November, which is a great time to go because you get a number of the wintering Siberian species, which breed further north in the Himalayas and Russian tundra. So we get sort of flycatchers and chats and thrushes coming over, which should really make a nice bolster to our overall bird list anyway. So the trip itself will be guided by a local birdwatching expert, in addition to a top Naturetrek guide. So that could be myself or one of my colleagues. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but there are obviously chances for extensions and tailor-made aspects because the country's greatly varied, and we just can't do all of it in 16 days. But hopefully this gives you a nice overview. So like I say, first stop, we fly usually Emirates via Dubai to Hanoi, and that's an overnight flight. So we land in Hanoi around midday, and that gives us time to drive overland down to our first stop at Cuc Phuong National Park, where we can check into the park headquarters right in the center of the park. The drive itself, we drive through the Ninh Binh region, which is an absolutely stunning landscape filled with this fantastic, unique karst limestone formations, which kind of make these forested islands, which really stand out. And of course, these classically Vietnamese temples as well, which is, yeah, it makes the journey a lot more interesting. So the park itself, it was established, I think, in 1962 by President Ho Chi Minh, and it encompasses an area of limestone hills clothed in this evergreen-dominated primary and secondary forest. And it can be explored by a very good network of walking trails. And, you know, taking one deeper into the forest probably gives us our best chance of finding the best birding spots and some of the more elusive mammals. But there's also some chances for some early morning drives around the park headquarters, which is good for the wintering thrushes like the orange-headed and Siberian thrushes, which sort of line up against the side of the road. So a couple of specialities here. We've got silver-breasted broadbill, red-whiskered bulbul, and then we've got the 3 species of pitter. We've got bar-bellied, as pictured here. We've also got blue-rumped and eared pitters. The birders amongst us will know that these can be quite difficult to spot, but thanks to some really top birding guides, we should have a good chance for them here if we're lucky. And then, of course, we've got the trogons. Everybody loves a trogon. Lovely, colourful birds like this red-headed trogon, but also plenty of other specialities like woodpeckers, greyish limestone babbler, and some raptors as well, like pied falconet. As I say, the mammals can be quite elusive and difficult to see here, as they are, to be honest, throughout of mainland Southeast Asia. But the theoretical wildlife counters are pretty mouth-watering. So some of the more likely mammals we might see might include this yellow-bellied weasel. We also get black-striped weasel, which can be seen in the grassy secondary forest and open woodland areas. And we're more than likely to see some squirrels. So we'll probably get inornate and maritime striped squirrels, which are pretty common around the park. But there's also the chance for this lovely giant black squirrel, which really crashes through the trees and almost sounds like a primate. So if they're around, we should hope to see them. Like I say, there are some larger mammals in the park which are more difficult to see, including the famous Austin civet, which is a super endangered civet, but being nocturnal, it's pretty elusive, and you know our chances aren't great, but it's always nice to know that every time you go into the park, you just have some chance of encountering one of these rare species. This is a pug mark that I've spoken to the park authorities, and it could be from a mainland clouded leopard, which would be an amazing discovery if that's the case. So as I say, we'll be staying in the park headquarters, which gives us a lovely base for roadside birding early in the mornings and can get us into the park early. Comfortable rooms, double ensuite with air conditioning. So yeah, plenty comfortable enough. So we stay for 2 nights, and then after breakfast, we'll head back to Hanoi via the close by reserve Van Long. And this is the largest inland wetland reserve left in North Vietnam. And it's sort of a network of lily pads and reeds and towered over by these imposing limestone cliffs. And the reserve is actually only accessible by a traditional rowing boat, but that gives us a nice opportunity to drift quietly through the reeds and have a look out for some water birds, such as pheasant-tailed jacana, which is one of my favorites, seen here in breeding plumage. Also good chances for white-browed crake, alongside some species of egret and bittern. And obviously also we've got the kingfishers, like this lovely white-throated kingfisher. And if we sort of move our eyes across to the open water, we might find some migratory species from Europe, like this northern pintail, as well as northern shoveler, little grebe, some Chinese pond herons maybe, and maybe some larger individuals like this Asian openbill stork. And then if we move our eyes up again and have a look to the skies, we've got some good chances of some raptors, like Benelli's eagle and this wonderful pied harrier. Looking to the cliffs themselves, this is our first primate target. They're home, these cliffs are home to the last viable population of these critically endangered Delacour's langur, They're severely fragmented, their population. I think there's now less than 250 individuals remaining worldwide. And the primate's actually been inscribed on the world's 25 most endangered primates list in almost every year since its maiden publication in 2000. So this is a properly unique opportunity to see what really is a wonderful and sadly endangered primate. So after our time in the north, we'll trace our steps back to Hanoi and hop on a plane and fly all the way down to the Dalat Plateau down in the south. So our time in Dalat, we might visit some mountainous areas around 2,000 meters, or the forested slopes of these mountains down to the plateau. And there's also a nice man-made lake, which is great for some water birds. And we'll also stop off for a lot of the country's near endemics, which are pretty easily found in this area. And it should be a nice, exciting few days to get to grips with the birds of the south of the country, which are really contrasting to the birds in the north of the country, in addition to some pretty incredible views, as you might see from some of these photos. So the first thing you might notice actually on arrival in Dalat is it's a very pleasant climate. It's often referred to, the city of Dalat is often referred to as the city of eternal spring, where the average temperature sort of sits around 18 degrees centigrade. And that really offers a nice welcome respite from the heat and a bit more comfortable bird watching compared to some of the jungles of the north. It's something similar to sort of an English late spring summer. So we've got 3 days in what's often renowned as Vietnam's birding hotspot. And we've got chances for 8 Vietnamese endemics here, such as the Dalat shrike babbler, previously considered the subspecies of the white-browed shrike babbler, but I think they're now split. We've also got the Vietnamese greenfinch and a couple of species of laughing thrush, including this lovely collared laughing thrush, as well as black-crowned fauvetta and grey-crowned crocea. So those are our endemics that we're really after. We've also got some lovely near endemics, such as this Vietnamese cutia, and some near endemic subspecies like this, the Dalat subspecies of the Indo-Chinese green magpie. It's got this lovely distinctive yellow front. And with this, the black band that goes across the eyes, I always think it looks a bit like a cartoon bandit, which is always quite fun. And then, of course, we've also got, sunbirds. Everybody loves sunbirds, lovely and beautifully coloured, like this Mrs. Gould sunbird, as well as the more skulky pitters and tree creepers that are around as well. Large mammals wise, we're a little bit more limited, but we might run into a northern tree shrew, maybe an Asian grey shrew, and some squirrels as well. Accommodation wise, again, comfortable ensuite double rooms with air conditioning, and this is actually in the city of Dalat itself, so it's really accessible and gives us some nice roads to get out quickly into prime birding territory. So after our time here, we'll do a very short hop 2-hour drive south to a place called Di Linh, which is still on the Dalat Plateau, and it gives us a chance to look for some specialities that we might have missed over the last few days. Including some of the laughing thrushes like this orange-breasted laughing thrush. And it's also a really good place to see the near-endemic black-headed parrotbill, which is restricted to the southern Annamite range and a tiny slither of Cambodia, so it's pretty much endemic. And as I say, mammal-wise, we might run into one of these cuties, this small northern smooth-tailed tree shrew. They tend to be about, and let's see if they crop up. Moving south further still, we come to one of Vietnam's flagship parks, which will probably be the highlight for any of our mammal enthusiasts amongst us. It's the largest untouched rainforest in southern Vietnam, over 71,000 hectares worth of forest. And this is really where the mammals are most visible. Although there are 340 plus species of birds as well. So, there really is something for everyone here. In terms of environment, it's best explored on foot, to be honest. But it's really easy going, wide open trails. And there's always a chance to use jeeps to really access the remoter parts of the park as well. So that's always a useful option. So the first spot I think is worth exploring is the trail leading to Heavens Rapids. This is about 13 kilometers up, so we can take a car if we need. And this is our first good chance to see one of our target primates, the rare and beautiful black-shanked duke. This is another near endemic that's clinging on in southern Vietnam and parts of remote eastern Cambodia. It's very skittish, so we do need some patience, but it is fairly reliable, and with the help of some guides, we have some good chances to see this one here. And whilst we're looking out for the dukes, we might run into one of these. a lovely yellow-throated martin. These guys are often seen crossing trails or peering down inquisitively from the trees as we're walking past. So we'll definitely keep our eyes peeled for those. Also a really good spot to see one of my favorite kingfishers, the Oriental dwarf kingfisher. And then moving on, we've got the central area of the park, which is called Crocodile Lake. It's right in the heart of the park, and the walk to the lake itself is probably one of the best spots to find another one of our endemic primates, the highly endangered Annamese silvered langur. Again, restricted range to the southern Annamites, and very skittish like the black-shanked duke. But as I say, with expert guides, we've got a good chance to see these as well. So the lake itself is no doubt great for water birds, such as these cotton pygmy geese. And as you might have guessed, the lake itself gets its name from the critically endangered Siamese crocodiles that reside here. And we could hope to get a few of those in the binoculars, or perhaps maybe a bit closer if we're brave. So the surrounding forest is great for galliforms like red junglefowl and Siamese fireback, in addition to Germain's peacock pheasant, which can be seen here, and green peafowl. And also, if we're lucky, the elusive orange-necked partridge is about as well. Another one of our target primates is one of the tour's flagship mammals, the southern buff-cheeked gibbons. And these gibbons are monogamous, so they pair for life. And every morning they'll send out these shrill, eerie calls, which will be basically our natural alarm clock to get up and get searching for them. So yeah, it's quite a fabulous sound. Really needs, it's a really unique experience hearing these call. Larger terrestrial mammals include sambar, which are quite common. And then deeper into the forest, you do actually get gaur, which are quite rare. And if you're very lucky, there's the last viable population of Asian elephant actually in this region. And I think 2 or 3 months ago, there was a bull elephant that came right past park headquarters. So fingers crossed, and you just never know, you might run into something special. And dusk and dawn, we've got great chances for lesser mouse deer, and as well as Indo-Chinese clouded leopard, which can be quite common. And as well, we've got 4 or 5 species of civet, which can be quite easily seen, as well as Malayan porcupine. And if we're lucky, we've got the endangered pygmy slow loris as well, which is really, really cute. Butterflies and dragonflies are all very well represented. Tons of species, they all pool around these mud pools and lick the salt. So they can be quite easily seen, especially in November when we're going. Accommodation-wise, we'll actually stay in the park headquarters as standard, which is a nice way to give us really good access to the park. But there is an option to upgrade to this lovely forest floor lodge. But I must say it is 3 times as expensive as the park headquarters, so it's definitely not for everyone. But there is obviously the option to do that should you choose to. So our final stop will be Canjiao. This is a little bit further south. So it's quite a long drive, 4 or 5 hours of drive south to the coast, and should arrive in time for some afternoon birding on the salt pans. This sort of habitat attracts a wealth of herons and egrets, as well as wading birds and a whole host of birds of prey too, if we're lucky. So some of which we might see a few flocks of marsh sandpipers, as well as some redneck stints and sand plovers. Across the pans, if we look out, you should see some of those. And then if you turn our eyes to the scrub, we might see bitterns. So we've got cinnamon and yellow bitterns. They're quite common really. And as well, we've got egrets, lots and lots of different kinds of egrets, such as this great white egret, as well as spoon-billed sandpiper, spotted greenshank, and a couple of terns as well, such as this common tern. Also got the kingfishers, they're all here, such as this lovely, rather attractive collared kingfisher. So we should see some of these as well. Mammals-wise, it's a little bit more limited than Captien, but so is everywhere. But the long-tailed macaques are pretty abundant, and so we should have a good chance for those, and that'll be a nice way to sort of round off on the mammal side. And we'll have time to overnight here and do a bit of morning birding before heading back to Ho Chi Minh to connect with our onwards flight home, if that's what you'd like to do. But of course, we've barely scratched the surface really, and there are plenty of options for extension should you wish to. So we can venture down into the Mekong Delta, or we can go up to Hoi An and Hue, the cultural centers of Vietnam, or we could go right up to the famous Ha Long Bay. Or if you feel so inclined, we can go after a few more of the endemic primates. And I've said this is from tailor-made perspective, but we can also do this from an extension. So these red-shanked dukes, they are absolutely stunning primates, and they live on the Son Tra Peninsula in the center of Vietnam. So if you were keen to go and see these, we'll talk to Matt Eade, and we'll see if we can arrange something there. But yes, I think it's time for me to sort of pass over to Tom. Otherwise, I will end up taking the whole evening talking about birds and mammals of Vietnam. So Tom, if you'd like to, yeah.
Brilliant, George. Enjoyed that. That was great. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Okay, so you should all be able to see my screen there. Thank you again, George. That was fantastic. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name's Tom Mabbett. I'm one of the operations managers at Naturetrek. I've been with the company now for almost 10 years, amazingly. And yeah, for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to take you to Borneo. So I look after all our current tours to Borneo, 4 itineraries, and a range of other tours as well to Brazil, quite a bit in Europe, in France, and in Spain and Italy, and also quite a lot of UK tours. So a bit of everything I look after. But yeah, let's head out to Borneo and south across the sort of South China Sea over to Borneo from Vietnam, from where George was talking about. So the 3rd largest island in the world, and I'm going to focus only on a small part of it. So I'm going to focus on the northeastern corner, the Malaysian state of Sabah. So this area here is all is Malaysian, and then this much larger area is all Indonesian, and you've got the tiny state of Brunei here. So we're focusing, all our tours visit Sabah and some the amazing habitats and environments to explore there. So just a little bit more on the geography, and I've just pinpointed some of the key sites just to give you a little bit of an idea of sort of where we're visiting. We typically start our tours flying from Heathrow to Kuala Lumpur, and then from there we fly into Sandakan, and we start the tour here typically with a night or two at Sepalok, the reserve there, a lovely area of forest that we sort of get over the flight, see some super wildlife there, and then head off to some of these other reserves. So we have Tabin, this dot here, that over to the sort of far east of really vast reserve, incredible bird life and some wonderful mammals as well. And then we have Dramakot, which you see, which I'll speak at length about. The Danang Valley, down in the south here, the Borneo Rainforest Lodge, we visit there as well. And all our tours encompass the wonderful Kinabatangan River. So when we leave Sandakan, you actually go via boat to access the Kinabatangan that way. And then we also visit Mount Kinabalu as well, which gives a great contrast to the sort of lowland forest reserves here, to head up into the more mountainous habitats around Kinabalu. So it was brilliant to get our tours running again in 2022. It felt like a long time not getting groups out to Borneo. We ran 3 itineraries last year, five departures, and I'm going to largely talk through our Dramakot, our mammal-focused tour, some of the highlights of some of the wonderful species we managed to see last year across those tours, and then talk about the other reserves we visit as well, and some of the excellent encounters we had there. So we start the tour, our Dramakot itinerary, with one night at Sepalok Wildlife Resort, and we get out into the forest, which are really surrounding the lodge, and a very, very short walk, and you're into some really super habitat, some nice boardwalks and trails, a chance to see lots and lots of wildlife there. It's where rehabilitated orangutans are released, so they're semi-wild. They can explore this vast area, but they still come back for fruit and offerings there. So it's a chance to see these incredible great apes up close, learn about their ecology, and really get some fantastic views. We'll often see macaques coming down as well, pig-tailed macaque and long-tailed macaques coming in as well, and some super bird life as well. While we're here, we'll visit the sun bear sanctuary as well, and learn about this fascinating species, and get some You get some really nice views of them, and this is all within very short walk, a walk or a very short drive from the lodge. We'll also get out into the Rainforest Discovery Centre. Has a really nice boardwalk through some fantastic forest, and a chance to pick up some some really nice endemic species. So we had really super views of Bornean bristlehead. This is just one of the many endemics found in Borneo. Really great views again last year at this site. So it's one of the best places to see Bornean bristlehead actually, and the Rainforest Discovery Centre, just a short walk from Sepilok. So we often see this species before we head out into the wider reserves. So following our night stay at Sepilok, we head off. We drive into Dramakot in this vast lowland forest reserve. A very exciting place to visit, and home to a whole host of special mammals and birds. And I'm going to focus on some of all the species I'm showing you now. We encountered on tours last year, and it's great to get back. So Dramakot's actually it's a working forestry reserve. You wouldn't really tell from this photo of it. When you're there, it's just beautiful forest, but it's a reserve that's won awards for the way it's managed, sustainable logging. They're taking out very selectively with their logging there, and it's shown that wildlife can still flourish and do very well alongside this practice, as long as it's done correctly. It's a very interesting way that it's managed, and it gives us an opportunity to drive lots of the trails and crisscross and drive around the reserve, particularly at night, which I'll come to. We stay actually at the forestry headquarters, and this is a sort of an aerial view of the accommodation. These two chalets here is where we stay, and explore the area from here. It's you really are there for the wildlife at Dramakot. I'll talk about some of the other lodges a little later, but it's basic accommodation. They're clean, comfortable rooms, air conditioned, but it's basic. This place it's not sort of, they still think of as a forestry reserve rather than we're 100% focused on tourists. They do a great job. They're really nice food, and they look after us well. It's a really fantastic place to explore. And in the daytime, we'll be walking some trails, wandering around the grounds, and there's lots of wildlife to enjoy just on the doorstep here. Just going for leisurely walks in the day, while we're sort of preserving our energy for the night largely. But there's species such as whiskered tree swift here. It can be seen relatively easily strolling through the forest just around the lodge. The absolutely tiny Bornean falconet, so one of, if not the smallest raptor in the world, sort of barely larger than the bullfinch. There's a couple of pairs actually nesting around the ground, so our groups enjoyed really cracking views. They feed largely on very small insects and butterflies a lot of the time. When I was there, they were just flying out and taking butterflies. Absolutely beautiful little bird. Much larger is red bearded bee-eater. So these are often just on the wires and trees just around the grounds of the headquarters. We managed to see all 8 of Borneo's hornbills across the 5 departures last year. This is the rarest of them all. This is helmeted hornbill, and with the heaviest sort of casque on the upper mandible here, and this really long tail. And we also have rhinoceros hornbill, black hornbill, oriental pied hornbill, bushy crested, wrinkled, wreathed, and white crowned hornbill. So there's 8 species, and we've got a good chance on this tour, and particularly our birding tour as well, to see a great majority of them. They're fairly reliable to encounter. And in some of the fruiting trees and bushes around the lodge, we can see this beautiful species, the Asian fairy bluebird, a really striking species that's fairly numerous around the grounds. And one really encouraging thing with our tours, last year, with a number of orangutan sightings, and particularly seeing mothers with young, as we can see here, so high in the treetops. And we had tours seeing sort of double figures, different individuals. I think on our Dramacot tours, they all saw orangutans, but even at Dramacot alone, on one tour saw 11 different animals, which is amazing. And so you're really encouraging the numbers of orangs that our groups were coming across, and some really fabulous sightings as well. We've got a chance to see Asian elephants at Dramacot. They regularly come within fairly close vicinity to the lodge, occasionally even walking through the grounds as well at times. It's a sort of subspecies. This is they call them Borneo pygmy elephants. They're ever so slightly smaller than the mainland Asian elephants, and they seem fairly regularly. So those are some of the species we can see in the daytime, but our focus during on this Dramacot tour is our sort of almost intensive sort of mammal watching holiday to Borneo, is to get out at night on a vehicle like this and crisscross the reserve, trying to find mammals in particular with a very powerful spotlight. Very, very exciting way of wildlife watching, and just lots of fun. We'll go out, we'll tend to take a couple of hours in the early evening, go back for a bit of a break, then drive out again, stop and have a in the middle of the forest and have a cup of tea or coffee, and then carry on. So we typically have sort of 7 hours, 8 hours of driving, sort of broken up with stops. Sometimes we do an early morning drive as well, and just depends what we see and where we've covered. One species we're bound to come across is buffy fish owl. This is seen very frequently during the night drives, and a range of civets. George was talking about civets. Well, we should see a number of them as we're touring around the reserve. This is Malay civet, always found down on the ground, whereas this small tooth palm civet is always found up in the canopy. Really long tail, and perfectly adapted for moving around. Often found in fig trees, fruiting fig trees. This species can move around with great agility up in the treetops. This is the beautiful banded civet. A really striking species, an insectivorous civet, and with sort of very fine hairs on the pads of its feet, so you can sort of sense the movement of any sort of small insects underneath the leaf litter. And very it's always a thrill when you encounter them here. A really bizarre species. I've got another slide later of a video of a sighting last year. Is the very bizarre otter civet, an incredibly rare civet species, very difficult to see, but our groups have had success, and again in 2022 had some really superb sightings. Actually on the Kinabatangan were the best sightings we had of otter civet. So it's perfectly adapted for an aquatic lifestyle. It's got its nose can completely close up, and ears as well, so it can actually sort of hunt underwater, and these really long white whiskers, similar to our otters. So a really fascinating species that we've got a chance to find. The list goes on of sort of bizarre, wonderful mammals here, and it's so exciting. You're traveling around, never knowing what you're going to see around the next corner. This is a sleeping binturong. And we had some really great views last year of them actually down on the ground, which is quite unusual. But typically they're high up in the canopy, and again find the fruiting fig trees a lot of the time, and that's where the wildlife will be found. This one will have gorged itself when it's having a sleep. You can't see it here, but it's got a really long, bushy, prehensile tail for moving around in the treetops. A really fabulous species. Philippine slow loris here. Is slowly making its way down a tree trunk on one of our tours, and this is another very exciting and quite bizarre species to find. This has a gland that actually secretes a toxin, which it covers itself in that to protect against parasites, and as a defense against other lorises as well. So lots of amazing, weird and wonderful mammals to find here. This is Thomas's flying squirrel. And these photos are all taken on tour. There's no sort of stock images, and people often say, well, surely everything just disappears when you shine a light on it. That can happen, but typically they'll hang around, and this photo it shows you that even at night you can get some good records, some good photos of some of the species we're encountering. This is the wonderful Kalugu. Absolutely love Kalugus. In the daytime, they'll just hang, sort of roosting, resting in the trees, and then come nightfall, they'll start to move around their their territory, and glide from tree to tree. They're the master gliders, really. You can just see the little youngster's head sticking out of the side here on this female, and they'll shuffle up the tree trunks and then launch themselves these big folds of skin and just glide. They've been recorded to glide, over 100 meters, barely sort of descending 10 to 12 meters whilst doing that from tree to tree. So really long glides, and we'll often wait until it shuffles right to the top and watch them gliding across the canopy. Fantastic creatures. So the moon rat here is more closely related to the hedgehogs actually than rats, but look in sort of wet ditches and you might see this bizarre species scuttling along trying to find worms. They're often fairly brazen, so they'll sort of stand their ground. Occasionally we've got off the vehicle and to have a look, and they won't scarper off. They've got quite an attitude. George mentioned the mouse deer. We have greater and lesser mouse deer that we're very likely to encounter as we're touring around the reserve, and this is potential prey species, of course, for the cats, which is our ultimate target. So excellent views of both lesser and greater mouse deer across our 3 departures that we ran last year. And the forestry work and sort of taking out of certain trees and leaving some areas allows the movement of these animals. It does actually help them in a way, not being such pure, thick, dense forest here. A very, very grainy photo, but a wonderful encounter with a sun bear on one of last year's tours. Really, really exciting. Just right next to the track, and the spotlight caught the eyes of a sun bear feeding in the tree there. Amazing. This is leopard cat, the most common cat species. There's 5 cat species that we in Borneo. So this is the leopard cat, are the most frequently encountered of the 5, and we'll see them typically on almost most night drives some of the time. So it's they're a really lovely cat, about the size of a domestic cat. Beautiful markings. And this is marbled cat, again a species that was seen on tour on one of our tours last year. Really nice view high in the trees. They're really big bushy tail as it moves to the trees. It often waits outside flying squirrel holes, waiting for them to come out and preys on them. The ultimate target here is clouded leopard. So last year we had a fleeting glimpse on one of our tours. Unfortunately, it wasn't the most prolific season for clouded leopards, but this is a photo from a previous season, and it's wonderful just crisscrossing the reserve, seeing a whole range of different mammals hoping to intercept a clouded leopard as it's working around its habitat. This is Sunda clouded leopard, so a different species now to the clouded leopard that's found on the mainland. And they're often we often see them walking with their mouth agape. They've got a scent gland at the back of the throat that actually sense use scent to pick up find their prey, which is rather unusual. And they can be quite confiding when we find them. They weren't last year, unfortunately. There was the guide and the driver actually saw a clouded leopard that it was feeding on a samba deer, and it moved off quite quickly. So we were a little unlucky there, but we have had some super views, and these large canines actually bite the back of the neck. So lots of big cats will take around the throat. The clouded leopard will go sort of around the back of the neck to take its prey. And this is an animal that from previous years that have actually walked right past our vehicle. Quite amazing. And these cloud shapes on their fur here, giving them their name. Really beautiful cat. And this long tail. The males are much bigger than the females, and they have sort of a different diet with that. Females tend to be a little bit more arboreal, a bit more agile up in the trees, and the males taking larger prey up to the size of samba deer down on the ground. Beautiful cat. So there's so much to see at Dramakot. That's just touching on a few of the weird, wonderful, amazing mammals that we can see there. We have 7 nights to explore the reserve, so you need a bit of stamina for it, but it's so exciting. You just run on adrenaline, and it's a really special experience in this remote reserve. Then we'll finish that tour with 3 nights on the Kinabatangan River, a little bit more leisurely, a little bit more comfort, and some fantastic wildlife. Viewing from the water is always a treat, and we'll head along the river, looking at the fantastic forest that lines the Kinabatangan here. Proboscis monkeys will we'll almost certainly be seeing big, troops of maybe 20 to 30 animals, largely females, a female with young here, typically one large sort of dominant male with the troop. But they're fantastic to watch them moving through the trees and feeding there. And I'll try and play this video. I was talking about otter civets. We had a wonderful sighting of 3 otter civets last year, just around the boardwalk. We stay at the Kinabatangan Wetlands Resort, a really nice lodge, and there's a great boardwalk out into some really lovely habitat. So at night you can do some really nice walks, and yeah, we had one of our groups had a wonderful encounter with otter civet. Just a short clip there, but there's not been masses of footage of otter civets. They are very rare to see, so it was a real thrill to see them. Oh, I'll try and skip on. There we go. Kinabatangan is a great place to see wild orangs as well. So wherever you are, whether you're whichever reserve you're at, you've got a chance to see a very good chance of seeing them. And often, again, this is taken on tour when they're feeding. And you find some fruiting trees, they'll often just be so preoccupied with feeding. You can just sort of shut the engine off, sidle up and have a really sort of intimate encounters with these absolutely amazing great apes. Very good for one of the best places to come across pygmy elephants again, and a range of birds. This is blue-eared kingfisher. There'll be stork-billed kingfisher. There'll be storm stork. Lots of different species, bulbuls, and a whole range of fantastic birds. If you're into your botany, it's brilliant for a range of different picture plants, 4-lined frog here, and water monitor lizard. There are lots to enjoy. This is Tabin. We visit Tabin on our Borneo birding tour. Mouth-watering list of bird species to be found here. This is black-crowned pitta, just one of many species we'll find. All of Borneo's hornbills are here. This is the wonderful rhinoceros hornbill. And we'll get out and do some really fantastic birding here, and some really great chance of mammal encounters as well. Again, it's a good place to see the pygmy elephants, and they'll often move from the palm plantations into the reserve. Tabin's a huge area of largely secondary forest, but wonderful forest, a huge reserve, but bordered by plantations, and the animals often move from one area to the next, so you can sort of intercept them as they do that. Fantastic place to see gibbon. Gibbons launch themselves from tree to tree here. You wake up first thing in the morning when it's just getting light, and you hear the amazing whooping call of a troop of gibbons, and it really is a special experience. Again, spotlighting here, our groups were seeing leopard cats on pretty much every night drive. Last year, again, as the cats go into the plantations where there's quite a high sort of level of rodents and quite easy to catch there, and then they'll move back into this fantastic forest, so you sort of intercept them as they go. Actually, the best leopard, we had a very fleeting glimpse in Dramakota cloud the leopard, but the best sighting was actually on the Borneo birding tour. Just saw Borneo's one of the most sought after mammals. Here's a wonderful daytime clouded leopard sighting. So really amazing photo of a clouded leopard at Tabin. Superb. Here's my snake slide. A reticulated python here. A few sightings last year. Not quite as large as this animal, which I saw a few years ago now, actually taking down a pigtailed macaque. Just finishing it off there. Took around an hour to eat this macaque. Quite an amazing sighting. But there's so much to see across so many groups of wildlife. It's superb. In the Danang Valley, so our Borneo orangutans tour had great success again. 10 different individuals seen last year on that itinerary, and that's our only itinerary that actually visits the Danang Valley and this amazing primary rainforest where the orangutans are studied here, more than anywhere else in the world. There's around 60 animals within the vicinity of the lodge, and they're tracked and they're recorded, and there's a lot of research that goes on in the Danang Valley. And this is the Borneo Rainforest Lodge where we stay at, a really lovely lodge to get out exploring. Some nice canopy walkways to get up into the canopy and really appreciate the this incredible forest from up in the canopy. And as I was saying, it's just such a great place to find orangs. They know typically where they are day to day, and they're doing some amazing studies on their diet. This sort of lowland dipterocarp forest, it goes through sort of mass fruiting events where every sort of 3, 5, 8, 10 years lots of the trees fruit at the same time, and the orangs will then gorge themselves on that fruit, and then until the next time they have to change their diet. So they're just studying that, and it's a fascinating study. Just a couple of photos that were sent to me from the tours last year. We'll get out spotlighting. This is Western tarsier, really super little species. I mean, huge eyes, and just hops from branch to branch. And also on our birding tour, we'll get up to Mount Kinabalu and explore the Kinabalu National Park, just around the foothills. Really, we don't climb it. It's over 4,000 meters, Mount Kinabalu, and a real contrast from the lowland forest with a range of fantastic endeavours. This is Whitehead's trogon. It's also Whitehead spider hunter and Whitehead's broadbill, the Whitehead's trio, and lots of different there's barbets and sunbirds and tree pies, a real range of special endemic birds here, and that's what we're focusing on as we explore the Kinabalu National Park. And some nice mammals, tree shrews, and this is Whitehead's pygmy squirrel. So some nice small mammals here as well, and fabulous place to explore. So that's a whistle stop tour up a little bit over time there of our tours to Borneo, and it was just great to get back there last year and get running these tours, get tourists back into these amazing reserves. And it's the only way really we can show their values by people visiting these areas. And this is a view across the forest and in the Dannon Valley from Borneo Rainforest Lodge. So I'll leave you with that photo. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you very much, Tom. And a really important message, I think, you've given at the end there of just the importance of tourism to these places. And it really is pretty much the only way that they're going to get protected. So yeah, it's just something for us all to remember there. So I think we'll now just head straight into the Q&A and answer a few of those questions that have been rolling in throughout the evening. There haven't been a huge number this evening, so if you've got any more, please do just continue to share them with us and we'll answer them as we go here. So there's a couple that we have picked out here. Richard mentioned that the Vietnam tour isn't actually mentioned in our brochure at the moment. So just to highlight that it's a relatively new tour, and so it didn't make it into this year's brochure, but it goes at the end of November. We've got just 6 spaces left, so do get onto the website. It's tour VNM02, Vietnam's Birds and Mammals, and yeah, hopefully you'll be able to join that soon. So that's just an important point. Who is it? Helen was asking about the dates for our India tour, which I believe Rajan said that he's going to get up in the next few days or so. So again, continue to watch the website and watch this space. That would be great. One thing, Dave Caulfield has had a question for George about the leeches in Vietnam. Is leeches a particular problem there?
It's a difficult one. Leeches are sort of present throughout Southeast Asia, any jungle environment really, but honestly, as I've had it far worse in many other countries, and the thing is, when we're going in November, it will be into the dry season, so the leeches only tend to really be a problem in the wet season, so they shouldn't really be around. Another thing to consider is that the trails are nice and open, so there'll be a bit of daylight between yourself and the shrub where they live. And also in general, just that there's less number of large terrestrial mammals, so there just tends to be less leeches around. So that's another thing to consider. But if you were particularly concerned, like I say, I was there for 6 weeks straight without a single bite, and then I went to Peninsular Malaysia and I was there for a day and I got a bite. So it's luck of the draw. But if you're particularly concerned, you can get leech socks. If you've seen them, they're things that go over your socks and over your trousers, and they tie up around your sort of above your knee, and then that's pretty much as secure as you can be. If that was something you're particularly concerned about, then yeah, I'd definitely look into that. But as far as I've found it, they are around, but they're not really a problem.
That's great. Thank you very much, George. And we've got a few more coming in now. So again, Dave Caulfield asked Tom, we run a Dramacock trip several months in the year. Is there very much variation in the species that you're likely to see, and which would you say is the best time to go?
Yeah, it's a good question. We run them across the season, and looking at the checklist of the 3 tours we ran last year, there's no sort of 1 month that you think you should go there, and it's rather, as I was touching on in the talk, there's a lot of luck involved with the cat sightings. They've been seen in across all months. There's been sightings. I choose dates that avoid the full moon. It's not really proven, but I think spotlighting when it's darker without the full moon helps. So I sort of do everything I can, but there's not 1 month that's particularly better than the other. Whenever you visit, you can expect quite a lot of sun, some downpours, some rain, which is good. You don't want it dry the whole time. A bit of a downpour can be very useful. So yeah, there's not really. We've had brilliant sightings across in every month. We run them in April, May, June, July, August, September, October over the years, and had some brilliant sightings on all of them. So yeah, doesn't really help massively my answer there, but yeah, we do all we can.
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Tom. And so have some more Borneo questions come in. It's always what happens when you go last. Do we visit any of the bat caves in Borneo?
We normally do, but we didn't. I had to take out my slides because we didn't we have visited the Gomonton caves, which are very close to the Kinabatangan River, but there's a problem with the boardwalk and the access last year, so unfortunately we weren't able to visit. But as soon as that's open again, we do fit that in to our itinerary, and we pay a visit to the Gomonton caves. But anyone that really wants to experience the bat caves and see the mass exodus of bats coming from these caves, I organised an extension last year down to the caves in Mulu. So it's a short flight from Kota Kinabalu down to Mulu, and there was they had a brilliant experience there. So if that's really high on your list of experiences, we can really recommend adding on those couple of nights and heading to Mulu.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tom. And just to say a shout out to Paul and Catherine, who are heading to Cambodia next week. I haven't given many shout outs this evening. I'm sorry I didn't see most of yours coming in, but we've got a whole host of fascinating people coming from all over the world. We've had India, Italy, Sweden. So thank you so much for your time and joining us this evening. I hope you've all found it informative. So another question that we had was about Vietnam for George. We had a couple of people who said it sounds like a fantastic tour, very all-encompassing, but are there any sort of extension options if you wanted to sort of do it all? I know you said there are a few places that you weren't able to cover in your talk, so yeah, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so you've got a few options really, depending on what you were looking for. So as I say, the culture is incredibly in depth in Vietnam. So you might choose to go to the central area. So on our group tour, we really, because of the way the flights work, we kind of go from north to south, because driving down the whole length of the country would take far too long. But if you'd like to do any of the middle of the country, that's a really nice addition. And it's a short flight from either Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh. So you can go from either way. And so, yeah, I would go to Hue or Hoi An, which are the cultural centers, which is all about, well, it's more than the Vietnam War, but it's fascinating stuff, and going back centuries to ancient temples and things like that. The food's brilliant, as I say, and you can go and get your tailor-made suits in Hoi An. They'll measure you to size for ridiculously low prices. It's a really cool experience. Or if you wanted to go for some more primates or some more birds, I would recommend, as I say, I know a lot of people are keen on the red-shanked duke. And there's a very reliable place we can see them on the Son Tra Peninsula. Again, that's on the coast right in the middle of Vietnam. But they are pretty, well, I don't want to say guaranteed, but you've got really good chances there. They're restricted to a very small island. So spending a day there, you've got a really good chance to see them. Or, of course, you can go up right to the north of the country, further north than Hanoi, and do the world famous Ha Long Bay, and spend some time around there as well. So, there really are lots and lots of options. It all depends on what you're looking for.
Great, thank you very much, George. And this is just one for Rajan as well. I think you're going to answer on behalf of Mugdha. So if anybody does have any Indian questions, please, Rajan will be happy to answer those as well. We do know that the Indian visas were a problem for a long time, a few months ago. Has that now all been resolved? Do we need to be thinking about booking very early because of that sort of thing? Or yeah, any sort of advice you could give on that would be great.
I will start by saying hooray. It was, yes, a challenge getting Indian visas, really difficult. But now, a month ago, they have reinstated electronic visas, which are very easy to get. And it takes only 3 working days. So yes, finally, they have done it. It took some time after COVID, and a few of our clients had real problems going to the High Commission, getting the appointments, but it's all in the past now. So very easy. You can get the visas, but booking early for Indian trips is highly advisable. It's recommended, not because of visas, but because of the permits. There are limited number of permits to visit the national parks, and they are normally go very quickly. So the season starts from October and goes on till April, the wildlife season, and especially to the central Indian national parks. So yes, if you would planning to visit India, please book now for autumn next year trips. Don't wait. The trips get expensive, and then getting permits is very difficult as well.
Great, thank you very much, Rajan. That's brilliant. And a question for sort of all of you, really. George has mentioned here that he is interested to find a tour where there is a good birder guide who also knows their flora. Are there any sort of destinations that you would suggest for sort of good botany and birding and sort of more all round? Anybody on the floor?
Sorry, Georgie, what was I?
Sorry, so so George would just like to know if there are any tours that we particularly recommend for people who are interested in birding, but also in the flora, and whether there's anywhere with particularly good guides that can do it all, really.
Yeah, I touched on the flora in Borneo. I mean, it's often tricky to find a guide that really knows all the different species, but they'll know a number of them. But the diversity of the pitcher plants in particular, you can walk around and see sort of half a dozen species with ease around the lodge there on the Kinabatangan River, and amazing up around Kinabalu as well. I was contemplating a few years ago setting up a botanical tour and looked into it. So it's not completely off the table. A botanical tour to Borneo in the future is brilliant, but yeah, at the moment we don't have a specialist guide there for botany.
I will add here, we have a trip to India, a botanical trip to India, and we have a very, very good guide who's local, based in India, and he's the one who leads all our trips. The name of the trip is Sikkim Botanical Trip, and we do it in summertime when it is very good for plants.
Fantastic, thank you all. That's great. And another one here for you, Rajan. Again, something we've seen in the news a lot recently is a political situation in Sri Lanka. Could you tell us a little bit more about how that's affecting things now, how the tours might be affected at all?
Absolutely. The country had some very difficult times. Initially, COVID, which happened for all the countries, and then the problems with the economic, no fuel, no gas to make food. But that is all over now. The country is doing very well. A lot of countries around Sri Lanka, starting from India and other countries, they have helped Sri Lanka financially, and they are getting back to grounds. We have already operated a few trips to Sri Lanka, and people have come back very happy without any problems. No problems with anything. The hotels were up and running. The guides were very happy receiving tourists, and they're desperate for tourists because they really want foreign currency, first of all, and also tourism to come back to Sri Lanka. And the people who have returned, they had more exclusive experience because there were not many tourists around. So they were having some special sightings, not very crowded places. We'll be running more trips. One trip goes tomorrow. Then we have a big group of 15 people going on 28th January. So we have already started and people have started booking. So please, yes, please book. It's all fine to travel to Sri Lanka.
That's great. Thanks, Rajan. It sounds like now is the time to go, definitely.
Correct. It is.
Another question for you. How many people would be on the Tiger Marathon tour, please?
The maximum we take on our Tiger Marathon trip is 16. And if we have a full group, sometimes on an average, we get around 8 to 10 people on that trip. But if we have a full group of 16, we will have more jeeps. So when we do the game drives, we don't do it in big trucks. We have 4 jeeps for 16 people with our guides and drivers. So it's exclusive. It's still exclusive experience. It's not that you're overcrowded. So yes, on an average around 8 to 10 people, but maximum will be 16 and will require a minimum of 5 people to operate the trip, which we normally always get.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you, Rajan. And George, one here for you. What mammals are possible in the, you're going to test my Vietnamese here. Is it Phong Nha Ke Bang?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Phong Nha is one of those amazing places where, yeah, the potential for mammals is brilliant, but it's so dense that what you actually see can be quite limited. I mean, they've still technically, got the Indo-Chinese tiger, but to actually see one, it's near unicorn status, really. But mammal-wise, some key ones to look out for are the Hattin langur, which is another one of those really endangered langur species, and they are quite reliable. Although you do need a top guide to see them, but they can be seen. And they've also got northern white-cheeked gibbons, which can be seen sort of towards the Laos border, because that park is actually on the border between Laos and Vietnam. Also Indo-Chinese black langur, that's another one. And the red-shanked duke as well. They can be seen quite fairly reliably in Phong Nha. Terrestrial wise, you've got all the civets as you would in Cap Tien, and Sirao is possible. Again, you have to be super lucky. But yeah, it's all there, but it's okay. As much as Tom said in Borneo, it's just it really is a question of luck. But yeah, it makes it all the more exciting when you know that every time you step out into the forest, you could see something quite amazing. So yeah, but there's certainly a lot of primates that can be seen in Phong Nha.
Definitely, sounds great, thank you. And another one, the highly endangered sowler in the Annamite Mountains. Are there any left at all?
Yeah, so same area. Phong Nha is kind of where Phong Nha and Bac Ma National Park, a little bit further south. I think the last live photograph was around 2011. So we're not quite sure. I'd like to think they're still around, but they're very rarely seen. And sadly, the only time they are seen is when hunters are bringing them out, out of as a bushmeat. But in a way, it kind of shows they're still there. But yeah, that is I think I mean colloquially it's called the Asian unicorn. So yeah, that kind of sums up the chances of seeing one. But yeah, as I say, again, very exciting to know that they probably are still around. But yeah, one hasn't been seen for quite a while now. But then it was only discovered in '97. So stuff's getting discovered all the time.
Okay, well, hopefully one of our groups will see it very soon.
Yeah,
that's the day. William has asked an important question. Are we going to the Destinations Travel Show? Yes, we are. Come and see us. We'll be on stand E121. A series of the Naturetrek staff will be rotating throughout the 4 days of the show. We've got my colleague David Phillips will be doing a talk on astrotourism on Friday at 12:45, I'm pretty sure. So do come and join him then, or yes, a series of our experts will be around all weekend. So we'd love it if you would come and chat to us and say hello. You can also get some free tickets if you've got your latest e-news, or just contact our office and we will send you some e-tickets or paper tickets if that's easier for you. So do get in touch, come and say hello. We'd all love to see you. Great. So I think we're sort of getting towards the end. Oh, another one here just for George. Is wildlife protected in Vietnam, and what are the main threats to the species there?
Yeah, so another difficult one. Vietnam, it's come on leaps and bounds over the sort of the last decade or so. Officially, everything's protected, and the park authorities do take it very seriously. But the Vietnamese culture is that they don't really have any distinguishment between farm animals and wild animals. So they'll happily eat anything pretty much. So historically, poaching has been a problem, but tourism's super important to sort of switch the mindset. So they can see that the stuff they've got is far more valuable alive than dead. So yeah, it's really important that they keep getting tourists to the areas, because the more they see that, you know, all these endangered species are worth so much more to show tourists than to put them on the menu. Yeah, we can only hope the situation is going to improve. But yeah, it's unfortunately, as with a lot of mainland Southeast Asia, stuff is super endangered for a reason. But yeah, we really hope that the situation is starting to improve now, and you know, some species have made a dramatic recovery already. So yeah, let's hope for the best.
That's great, thank you, George. And as you say, very very important messages there, and just really do need to start getting people out there to show how important tourism is. So yeah, very important that we all get out there soon. So I think that just about wraps it up. I can't see any more questions now coming in. I hope you all enjoyed the evening. So we will be back next week with our next talk on the British Isles. We will also be at destinations from the 2nd of February, I think that begins. And so we would love to catch up with you all then soon. Again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you and to be able to talk about these wonderful places that we're lucky enough to be able to sell each day. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
you, everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.